talking about the interesting orchard that was in the that was in the yard of the Reish Galuta. So let me just share the diagram again so we can review what exactly that looks like. So we were talking. So here we go. So here we are. So we have some sort of something in their backyard, something in the yard, right? So the question is it attached to a house, not attached to a house, and what exactly is it? So just summarize what we got to on. So I guess I'll read through it again quickly, and then I'll summarize more of it outside, and hopefully we'll be able to have a little more understanding. The first case we had was as relevant to this discussion is when we had the person had a large mansion attached to their carpet, and then one of the walls of the house fell down. They wondered if they could use one of the walls for the carpet to the house. And they said no because the wall wasn't made for that. That's no good. Now we're talking about similar ones where we have cases where the wall of walls not being done right. So that is the case of the banqueting pavilion, which is either a tree, which either might have a tree or an achsadra on top, as you see in the diagram. Right, so it could have that, and then the other option is that it has, right. So another option is not that it's a tree. It also could be, see on the left here. It looks like there is a some sort of structure here, like where we were eating. Right, not necessarily there was a tree on top or anything. So like the question was, what is the goal? What's the goal to here? So we're going to read Rashi's information, and like what Rashi says, I'll say it according to the diagram, underneath the diagram of each respectively. So, right, so the first option we said by the first one he says is Elon Shitzivan Berubah, then top, right, and then you would put all these nice benches below it. So that's option one. And then option two is that it's either a nice tree or a nice tree combined with a achsadra. Okay, that's that. Right, so you basically see the tree, but there's also, not only is there a tree, there's also some sort of pergola type or veranda type structure underneath it, also.
Rabbi,
yeah.
Rabbi, your internet doesn't seem amazing. Is it just me?
You're breaking up.
Oh, that's okay.
Your internet doesn't seem very clear. Your voice is breaking up, Rabbi.
Okay, so let me see. I'll see. Let me try and fix that. One moment. Better now?
Keep speaking and we'll find out.
Okay. All right. So
that is better, yes.
Okay, so the question is, so what exactly is the structure? So in some place where that was fancy and really nice, the Reish Galuta wanted them to eat. Okay, the question. So in and of itself, wasn't a sufficient Rishut Yachid. Either because it didn't have walls, maybe it was just a tree, maybe because it was in an area that was forbidden, but it wasn't good enough. So the option, we try to figure out what we could do. So Rashi said. So then we just went through one here. Rashi, another one of Rashi. Right, so we said about the achsadra. So now we're going to say that the other question was, how would we, solve the issue of the yard being of the yard either not being this time Rashi is answering the question. Maybe it's not. Maybe the problem with it is that there's nobody living there. So he says maybe we can fix it by Perish Rashi. Daha'id be shomra shekinu shemeh k'shomera Beit yira. So basically, the point was, why would we make we said we're going to make the cunning structure to fix everything, right? So one opinion of Rashi is the way that it's fixing it is because it's why does it work? Because now basically you made a big dira there by basically having by putting a set wall, not just a shady area. Now there's licensed walls and there's food there, so that way, because if somebody's living in the backyard in the karpaf, that's why the whole area is now permitted. Okay, the next option would be Tosfos lives on the side of it, right? That's 130 in the diagram. I'm reading from there. So הוא הוורניקה, אבל אם הייתה עומדת מצד הפרדס, לא היה צריך לעשות שביל, אלא להרחיק את בוסתנה ומטה מצאתיים. Right, so but if it was up to the side, you wouldn't even need to have made the path, which we said that Rafuna Bar Chedron made. Rather, you could have just, apportioned off that part where you wanted to have access to, and it would have been small enough, that would have been fine. But the other option is Lohaya Patuach Sham Shumbai. The other option could be, why do you have to make this weird apportioning to exclude it? Not that there's a house in the foreground near where I'm highlighting over here. But the thing is, though, why do you when you make the walls, what you're doing is basically you exclude the rest of the large karpav from the Chadra itself, and you surround the Chadra too, and that's why it's a separate rishos. Okay, and then Tosfos says another opinion. Right, the Parshat David kana pacham shlosha dehainu sheichik min hakotel arba latir kol pustin v'haya habayit patuach lo. The other option is that the house that Tosfos mentions is that actually the house opens into the Verniki, and that's so it's kind of like we had in the previous case where the wall of the mansion fell down, and now we're still trying to push the wall of the Bustana in a little bit, and that's what we'll be doing. Okay, so the question is, are we trying to solve the issue of there being no Beit Dira, which is why this doesn't work, or is it because the issue we mentioned before about how it's not residential, or is it because the area is too large? The question is, which thing are we trying to solve? We're trying to solve both. Right? What is wrong with mechitzas that got pulled out? So now we're going to go back to the Gemara. Okay, so we had Bechirna had this great plan with the Kanim, and then we had Azal Ravo Shlafinu, right? So that now turning to now we're on Chavav Manalef, that Azal Rapapa Ravuna Braid Rav Yeshua Benaktinemi Batre, and they went around and they took them all out because they thought that whatever that he was doing wasn't kosher. Whichever one it was, we'll get to. We have our options. Whichever one of them it was, Rav was not happy, and his students helped him make sure to take out all the posts and steal them. That way
Rabbi, question: with Rava and his students, when they took it out, was it because it wasn't kosher or not necessary?
They thought it wasn't kosher.
Okay.
Not necessary. Thought it wasn't kosher.
Okay. So what would not be kosher about it? It seems as though they were being machmer.
They're being machmer because either they would say that you can't. The question was, we had before about putting a wall on top of a hill, or a wall on top of a wall, if that works to be kona the rishus. So here we're saying that if you were to add one of these, simply this temporary looking wall of sticks, it's not sufficient to change the status of the rishus. Right? It's not enough. Just like you tried to be kona the rishut by putting a wall on top of a wall on a hill, which was sufficient. So similarly here, it's insufficient. Or that he felt that. So that seems to be the problem. That he didn't think that it was a sufficient wall, or he didn't solve the problem. He just made a cutesy little thing, but it didn't help. So then now the next day we have Ravina talking to Rava. Macher itvei Ravina l'Rava. So the next day there was this question was asked to Rava. Again, we're still the same story. Ir chadasha modedin la mishivata v'yashana michomota. So in a new city, you measure it from where it's settled, an old city from its wall. Okay, so we have the settlement and we have the where people live, right? So the question is, where do you measure from the residential area or from the wall? So now, so Izuhi Chadasha Vizu Yashana, which one's which? Chadasha Shehukva so Yashva. So a new city is one where you made a wall, built the wall first, and then you settled it. Yashana Sheyashva Olvasav Hukva. And Yashana means that you settled it, and then you made it, and then you put the fence around at a later date. I.e., the city is the settlement is old. The Yerushalmi actually has it being the exact opposite. So, but we're not explaining Yerushalmi now, so we'll just leave that aside. So, the question is, what gives the wall its purpose? Is it right? So why is the chadasha you get from where the settlement is, because the wall was there, and then you're putting houses later can't help your wall. And then for the Yeshana, we say that you get the wall because when the wall was put up, it was Hukaf Latira because there already were houses in there when you put it around.
Rabbi, what are we
opposite.
measuring?
Yeah.
Is this the area of Techumen?
Yes. Yes, for Tchum.
That's what we're measuring.
Where does Tchum start? And also for us, if you like, for case of carrying within the city, if it's a fully walled city, you actually carry inside the whole city also. So, but we're sort of saying. So, the question is, when do you do your measurements for Tchum? Where do you start from? Do you start from the fence or the city? Okay, so that's so Balda says your Shami has the exact opposite, but we'll leave that aside. They're like, wait, but shouldn't you say that our case of the orchard, where the orchard, then the house? Remember, there was the house that wall fell down in the orchard. Right? Shouldn't we say this the same? Similarly to the case of Hukfol Sofia Ashvadami, that basically if you had made a wall and then you decided to turn it into a residential area, right? That shouldn't be so that should be allowed if you want to allow the previous case. So Amar Le Papa Rava. So then Rav Papa said to Rava, the Hamar Rav Asi Mechitza Draklin Lo Shmei Mechitza. So, but didn't Rav Asi say that the walls of an Adraklin are not considered Mechitza? So it's an Adraklin. So those are walls that are created for they're created for when people are, according to Rashi, when people are doing construction. So they put up these walls for shade or to hang their clothing on. They're not real. They're not walls that are extremely substantive. So they would not be given that status. Right. So another option for right. So that's one option, and then the other option is that it's meant for not to hang the clothing on, but basically it's because they're doing heavy work and they don't want to be, and they want it to be, and they want to have a little bit of privacy while they're doing construction. Right. So that's the question is what exactly is going. So that's like it's not this is a wall that looks like a wall. It's tall enough to be a wall, yet it's not a wall. So Alma Kevan Tzniuta Avidalei Lo Havi Mechitza. So what does that imply? That since you only made this wall not for dira, maybe not for residential usage at all, why do you put this wall up? You only put this wall up in order to for privacy reasons, or for right, or maybe for before because it's just block out the sun, right? So that's not a wall. So similarly too, the wall, since the wall on the outside of the garden wasn't meant to be, used for residential reasons, it was meant to be used for tzniut. It was meant for tzniut, because that way people wouldn't be able to see when you're in your garden. Therefore, you should say that the wall out on the outer part of the garden, or the case of the with the garden pavilion, also should those walls shouldn't work because they're meant for the purpose. So the Amar Rav Huna Breder of Yeshua Rava, and Rav Huna Breder of Yeshua said to Rava, the Amar Rav Huna Rechitza Asiyah Lanachat Lo Shem Rechitza, but didn't Rav Huna say that a partition made for resting objects alongside it and protecting them is not considered to be a valid wall? So what do you mean then? So Rabba Bar Ma'arev Le Lachule Mechuza Arsiata Mishum Peri Tore, because this is what Rabba and this is it follows what Rabba Bar Avu did as he constructed a Eruv separately for each row of houses in the tiny town of Mechuza because of the ditches for the cattle would feed from. It separated them all. So again, if you see, you'll see a diagram on the side of the Vilna. But you'll also here's an example basically. So you have in between each the parish class. We have different residential areas that are separated by deep feeding troughs in between each of them. right? So that way, it's as if that way it generates a wall between here and here, even though it's not necessarily meant. This wall is not. Of course, this wall is not meant to be a wall for a wall purposes. It's simply, you need a place for the feet of the animals. And shouldn't we say that this ditch is considered to be a partition made for resting objects alongside of it? It's not meant for a wall. But for something else, how's this good? So then the Gemara concludes, So with regard to this incident, the Reish Galuta, the Exilarch, said that the wise do evil, but to do good they have a knowledge. Meaning, basically, on Friday, right? So Rava and the crew destroyed the Eruv accommodations made by Rav Huna Bar Chinana to allow people to use the pavilion. And then the next day, all they could do was that when they removed it, all they could do was prove that actually, you're right, maybe it should have worked. And it was actually prohibited to carry in the orchard, right? So either they were trying, so either they took it out because they thought it was unnecessary, or they took it out because it couldn't work. Again, depending on how you were to have read the sugya, and right, and again, and then that creates all these issues. So now the question. So now just a little bit of a quick in on this topic. So the question is, what gives something the status of being being a proper wall? So we had 6 cases. We talked about the case of the orchard, or of an orchard with the house leading to an orchard, and then the walled house fell down. We have the case of the garden pavilion, the Vornica. We have the case of the new city, the old city. We have the case of the Mechitzot Adraklin, which is a construction wall. We have the Mechitza Svil Nachas, a wall simply made for to make it easier to put stuff down next to, not at all for the purposes of using as a wall. Or the case of Peri Beit Torah, other place where the food was meant to, where the ditch was meant to simply store food and nothing else. So why aren't these good? So one option is that again, it's no good because it's not a residential area, like we had by the case of the Buston in the first place. We have the case of that it's meant for something else, that it's meant for for not because it's not for residential, because it's made for something specifically that's not residential, such as storing your food or for hanging things on top of. That was the problem. Or you could say that right, the more technical sense, that it's not done for this with like in the little bit brisker sense, that l'shem mechitza l'dira, that when I made this, I had in mind that this wall would be able to be used for a functional residential purpose. Right. So another option is that it's not really a wall, because you can say that the wall is, just say it's temporary, either in nature, like meaning it's only here for now, and you're going to move it at any moment, or you can say because it's simply because none of these walls we're talking about are super strong walls. Like you're building a house, you build stronger walls, but for these purposes, you might have them being weaker. So that's why all these walls are no good. So now let's put that whole chalmasa. I will leave aside. For more on that, please ask consult Rabbi Kropkin for use of the walls in the local Greater Toronto Eruv. But for now, we will go back to the back to the Gemara. So Amar Rabbi Eli Shemati mi Rabbi Eliezer Afilu Beitkor. That the area that you're allowed to be include, we're returning to this thing we mentioned earlier about the maximal size for a karpef, or in a garden, and we say that it's a beit core, right, which is 30 times bigger than the beits that we have been working with prior. So that means the Mishnah is not like Chananya. The Tanya, it's learned by Chananya. Omer Avafilhi Arbaim Sa'a Gestratia Shalmelach. So we know that even that this is like Chananya. Chananya says that that even be the size of 40 beits, which is 10 more than what we just mentioned. So therefore, clearly that's not him. So right, so he is even larger. So he says it's based on the court of the king, which could be extremely large. For exact sizing, you can look at some of the ancient courts that they had, let's say in ancient Rome, and how big the palaces back then used to be. They were absolutely massive. So, oh, a second, my screen just jumped. Sorry, one moment. Okay, so I'm Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan is going to try and explain this argument you had before about maximal size. And right, and as it came to pass that before Yeshayahu had gone out of the middle courtyard, and then God had, and then as it continues, then God had come to him, give him a nevuah. So it says it's written city, but we read it as Chatzer. So that's how we learn that the courtyard of a king is the same size as a city would be for a normal person. So what are you arguing about? Mar Savar Ayrot Benoniot Havin Beit. Mar Savar means Havyan. So then what's the argument? So both are bits all bits out on the Chatzer of Yeshayahu. That Yeshayahu was in right? So then this is the courtyard that he was in of the king at the time, right? So that's what they're debating, and the question is how big exactly that was. That's the question. So Yeshayahu, my bayat. Wait, so why was Yeshayahu there in the first place in that middle court? Amar Rabba bar Sana Amar Yochanan Melamed Shechalach Chizkiah V'halach Yeshayahu V'Hoshiv Yeshiva Al Bitcho. Basically, when Chizkiah Melech was sick, and Yeshayahu went and he established a yeshiva by his door in order so that the merit of which would help Chizkiah get better. So from here we learn that when a Talmid Chacham is sick, you should set up a yeshiva by his doorway. However, this is not a proper course of action. This is not proper course of action as they might come to provoke Satan against him. Basically, because by your being there, there'd be all those mitzvot around him, and he's not able to learn and do the mitzvot, so that might have the opposite effect. Similarly, I've heard. Okay, so that's the answer. That's into that story. Now we're back to things that relate more to. Okay. Okay. So well, again, now just to head back, there's coming some more pictures of an Afsadra, and right, just so we could get a better picture of what it was. Sorry for going back now. Just to know that they had more pictures in the Parish Chai. Right. So we had the question if the house leads into it versus the house doesn't lead into it. Well, that may make it better. We also have this is just a nice picture of the way you would have surrounded your nice shaded tree area. And also, right, and then once you start using it, then another solution could have been you could have put stuff down there. That way it wouldn't have been sneered anymore. And then we have our BAYT, right? So the question, right, of how many are there? So in Rashi, some only had 2. Here we have a lot more than that. And then we also have the case have just simply being a ditch between the two of them. Okay, for the BAYT, how it ended up looking. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for now because we're done with the pictures. This will hopefully be a little less distracting while we continue on with the Gemara. Okay. So similarly, so another statement is that Rabbi Eli ben Rabbi Eliezer that if somebody forgot and didn't join in the Eruv, his house is asur, they can't enter it. Wait, but what do we need this statement for? Do we learn in Mishnah that you're not allowed to carry into his yard or out of his yard. So Amar Huna, braid Rabbi Yeshua, Amar Rav Sheshes, Lo Kasha, Ha Rabbi Eliezer, Ha Rabbana. No, this is okay because the Mishnah is following Rabbi Eliezer, and the other one is according to the Chachamim. I will explain what the opinions are. Shem Shalomar Davar Eliezer, as Rabbi Eliezer, what is Rabbi Eliezer's opinion? That Havatal Reshut Chatzero, Reshut Beito Bito. When somebody gives up his rights to the communal courtyard, he also gives up his rights to his house. So, but according to the Rabbanan, that's Rabbi Eliezer. But the Rabbanan say no, that if you were providing rights to have access rights to the courtyard, that's all you gave them rights to. You still didn't say that they can come and use your house freely. All you said is they're allowed to use the courtyard. So in Pshita, it's obvious. So that this is the machloket, and that's how it lines up. So Amar Chava Ana v'Rav Huna bar Chinna Targimna. So I myself and Rav Huna bar Chinna explained as follows: Lo nizrcha ela l'chamisha sheshrim b'chatzer b'chad shekach mehen v'lo irev. So what is the case where you have 5 people who are living in the courtyard, right? Who's open to the courtyard, one of them forgot. Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Eliezer, right? He doesn't need to mevatel reshus to each every one of them. He simply says, "I my is mevatel. I am no longer there, and therefore we're good to go." But the Rabbanan mevatel reshuto tzarich mevatel kol chad v'chad. But according to the Rabbanan, in order for everybody else to have access to the courtyard, he has to mevatel to each every person individually. Which we can't, because he's only given part of his rishus. So therefore, in order to clarify that everybody can use it, it's not just letting the one guy use it. He has to make sure to point it out to every single person. The default is not saying that I'm not even here for Shabbos. It's like saying that I'm here, but I want to use that part. So therefore, once he's already being stingy, therefore he might be even stingy for other things too. Come on, who else is this follow? Hadatanya. According to this brayta, Chamisha sheshrim v'chatzer echad mehen v'lo irev kishehu b'vatal reshuto and tzarich b'vatal reshut v'chad v'echad. So who's that brayta supporting of the ones we've stated till now? Come on, permit that's Rabbi Eliezer hopinion, because he says that you don't need to b'vatal to every single person, because when you were being b'vatal, you default b'vatal to every single person. All of your rishus to everybody all at once. Therefore, you don't need to do it. You don't need to mention it again. So Rav Kahana Mat Nehachi, right? And Rav Kahana actually explained the original statement according to the interpretation of Rav Chava and Rav Huna bar Chinna. Rav Shivyomi Mat Nehachi. Rav Shivyomi explained it differently. Kaman Azla, so who do they follow? Hadatanya Chamisha Sheshrim Echatzer Echad V'Shekad Echad Mehem Lo Yirev. Come on, Amar Huna bar Yehuda Amar Sheshet. Come on, Rabbi Eliezer. So he teaches it again. Rabbi Jimmy is in a very similar fashion as different people being quoted, saying that this is according to Rabbi Eliezer, because once you are being mevatel, you're mevatel yourself as well. So you're also being in your own reshut. Therefore, you don't need to do it every person, because once you start doing bittul, it goes over to every single other person. So Amar Leir Papa Larabaye. Rabbi Eliezer Iyam Amar Lamabatilna. Larabanan Iyam Mamabatina Mai. So now we're gonna ask. So now Papa's asked Abaye. According to Rabbi Eliezer, who says that you're not everything that you bought everything all at once. So if one forgot to do so, and he said, I says, I'm not being mevatel my house, and the Rabbanan also said, I am renouncing my house. So what would happen in each case? If they said, I am only being mevatel just my BAYT with my house, would that also imply the rights to their chatzer or not? So Rabbi Eliezer Mishum Kasavar. So let's explain Rabbi Eliezer is because he says mevatel reshut chatzero, reshut beito bitel. V'hai amar ana lo mevatel. So Rabbi Eliezer, the reason why he says is that when you say mevatel the chatzer, so the chatzer is really the place that people live. So so along with it goes the rights to use your house. But other opinion is that, but here the problem is he says that I'm not being mevatel in my house. So how could you say that he's doing anything? Like how would you say that this and that if he said I'm not being mevatel in my house explicitly? All Dilma, Tam to realize Mishum, divide below chatzer lo aved inshe diary, or would you say that simply a person can't live, wouldn't be able to live without having their courtyard, and therefore it's an all-in-one package because you can't have a house without a courtyard. Therefore, when he's saying I renounce authority over my house, he can't do so because you have to be if you're not explicitly giving it all over at once and you're trying to do partial, the answer is you can't do that because nobody would ever give up their house or their courtyard unless they're giving up everything all at once. Because people don't, nobody would live just in a courtyard. You wouldn't only live in a house without a courtyard. You would need both, or not be functional living. So that's why you need both. Iyamar Migal Tilna. He said that I have Mivatel, one part of it, what you say. My time is why would you say that it works? So here, when he says Mivatel his Chatzer, but his house is not Mivatel. Wait, but didn't he say I'm not being Mivatel? Didn't he say that I'm being Mivatel my house? So shouldn't that allow everyone else to carry as well? Because basically, when we get rid of his house, that means that he's got no rights anymore, doesn't it? So, or maybe the opinion of the Rabbanan is because one does not usually move himself entirely from both his house and from the courtyard, which would make him purely a guest by his neighbors. He would never do that. Therefore, when he says I'm battling my rishus, he couldn't have done so because nobody would make themselves not have any rights to the area. So therefore, nobody would ever try and live only in the chatzer. It's also by the way that's why it wouldn't work. So Amar Le Ben Rabbanan Ben Rabbi Elazar Kiman de Gali Daate Gali. So then Abai said to Papa, according to the Rabbanan and according to Rabbi Elazar, when once explained what he meant, so then we follow what he said. So v'chein shamati imenu sheyotzim are kabbalim b'Pesach. Certainly, I heard that you can go out. We're still continuing on with statements we heard in the name of Rabbi Eliezer. That I heard that you're allowed to use our kabbalim, which is a type of bitter herb on Pesach. So in my arak kabbalin, Amarish Lakish atzvuta charuziata. It said it's a. So what is this? Or it says it's a type of fiber that wraps up around a date palm, right? So then, which is bitter. So saying that would be a sufficient thing to use. So I guess here we'll leave the mission for tomorrow. That way we'll have, because that's an entirely different topic. So now just to sum up what we've covered today, and then I'll open the floor to questions. So we started talking. So we've been talking a lot about how to how to fix a karpaf or a bedira, and when the walls fall down, how you fix everything. So we're discussing the case of walls that were not necessarily meant to be used that way when they were originally made. So we started to talk. So we'll do a Torah explanation. So today we started with the case of the case where we had the mansion leading into the orchard and the wall falls down. Can you count the wall of the orchard or not? Right, reasons why we said the problem is it wasn't originally made for Beitira, right? Since it wasn't originally made for those purposes, we say it's problematic, you can't, and that's no good. Then we got the case of the Merniki, right, of the shaded area of the pavilion, right, and all these different permutations of how it may have been constructed, and why for that, right? So initially we were stating that you don't, that maybe it should be found on its own, maybe not. And then the solution of doing just making the walls with the kanim, then how they're taken out. So never ever destroy an Eruv even if you think it's possible currently, because odds are somebody will be able to be malam a split, or you may just really made a mistake. So better to not destroy the structure, because if you destroy it, it's too late. and nobody appreciates not being able to carry on Shabbos when they thought that they could. You don't want to be. It's never a good sign of the head of the Jewish of the Jews who puts Lars aside that, well, I've been better off without the rabbis. You don't want that. So then we discussed whether so either when you make the wall, either solving the issue of the area being too large, or it was solving the issue by excluding it from the rest of the usher area, or potentially it was that if you already had a BAYT attached to it, that it would be connecting to it. So and then we spoke about the case of when you built a new city, which you try to support. The question is you have to put the walls up with intent or not initially. So we saw that in the Bavli it says that that if you put the wall and then the residential is no good, you can't count the wall. Whereas if you put the residential and then the wall, then it is good. Then it also but then, ironically the opposite is true for the Yerushalmi, because they say that because one of the because if you had put the because if you had they say basically on a new city means that you're planning out the city and you built the wall, even though even it comes later, that's still good. Because question is when you were constructing, do you intend to be used for deer or not? If you're building, let's say I'm now building I'm going to build a town, and I want to make sure that I don't get attacked by wild animals during construction or at any other point. And also afterwards, I want the first thing I'm going to construct for the sake of the rest of my buildings not being vandalized or everything else. I'm going to build the construction wall first and then the house. So that's the start of the Yerushalmi. That's what they say that actually that's how you know for sure that it was built for the purposes of the residential area. That's why you can start from the outer rim, as opposed to from the place of the residences. We spoke about the case of the Adraklin, of the construction of the wall by construction site, or why that's no good, because it's not meant to be served any of the purposes of mechitza. So therefore, it's not meant for residential area or anything else. Therefore, that creates a problem. Again, for how a lot of things play out in Hachlamasa, that's not for discussion now. Because depending on how you interpret that, would be whether or not, let's just say somebody's doing construction in your town. Would that mean that and that goes under the Eruv? Would that invalidate the Eruv entirely or not? Because now you've got a no good wall in the middle of your Eruv. So would that we said that's the tracks or not? Again, separate discussion. And the question of can you come on afterwards again? So it's machloket. We spoke about the case of the Beit or the period of Beit of where there are the feed troughs that we say was no good because they are not because they have absolutely no intent to be used as well. So technically they're a ditch that can be that looks like this one. Right. So then we had another picture of there's another depiction of the Asadra. Right, where we say it would make things worse off, right? So again, if you attend your backyard, that's not necessarily going to help you. Right, for your pavilion, that would say basically the question that might help why you didn't put the posts is because basically it's a way to get from point A to point B without and completely avoiding the usher area. That way they could bring the food out so they could eat the next day in their nice pavilion outside. All right, so the other option we said had been to basically if you had placed walls, or if you place walls around it, but again, so the Tosfot is here saying that the reason why we brought the case of the Adraklin is that just like the Adraklin was for Sniut, so too was any of the walls you put that may have been around the garden pavilion. They weren't real walls; they were Sniut walls. People wouldn't see in while they were lounging in their garden. They wanted privacy, so that's the problem. Not because the wall wasn't meant to be right. Because you put a wall, you can put a wall because you're like, my property is here. Don't cross it. And then as you put the wall, you're like, it's kind of like how now you close the curtains. You don't want me to see in right now, and that's the purpose. And then the question of when you have the Beit of how Tosfot mentions the extent of how much it is, and he says that basically it's there's so many of them to each and every area that we can consider considering each location of being surrounded by a wall or not. And so the question is, and then as far as active destruction, so it says that it seems to have been done, and actually it was originally built as a pit, as like you built an actual ditch. So now we know a little bit. Oh wait, it was not showing the picture. My apologies. That okay. So I'll just share it again, and then I'll just scroll through the words in the order that I stated them. Right. So we had our case of the Bustana. We had the case of the Averniki of the Garden Pavilion. That's pictures 128, 29, 30, 31, and 30, 32, as well as 36 and 37 and 38. We had the case of the Adraklin, which is 134, and the case of Victoria, which is picture number 135 and picture number 139 and number 140. So these are all types of problematic walls. And the question of how can we make them allowed? How can we use them for Eruvin? And very important thing to remember again is that a lot of times the Eruvin there are a lot of machlokas, some that are chomer, some are lakula. And important to remember that even if, let's say, you may have heard a chomer opinion, remember that there also could be there's a cool opinion, as we'll come across soon in Eruvin, that would say that we different makel, but Eruvin normally follow the makel shita and Eruvin. So that if ever there is an Eruv, you might want to make sure you do full research before stating that it's possible, and don't immediately start taking down any signposts or short of petals because he feels no good, because you may wind up creating a lot of anger against Judaism as a whole, as we saw happen even by the Resh Galuta in the story from today. So, if there's any questions, feel free to ask them now, and we will continue with the new parak Everybody should please start. Today is Friday, please continue. So please do the meeting of the parak on your own. I will be posting hopefully a little bit later today. I'm basically following this. I'll be recording the next off. So if you want to that, you're welcome to that. It'll be posted on the on Toronto Torah's YouTube channel, as well as on my Torah, and also also on Sunday, if anybody's interested, there is a Tishrei in a day. Figure out Sunday now is posted to the day of. So if you would like to attend that, that's also run by the Beit Midrash. You're welcome to attend that on Zoom as well. Details are found on TorontoTorah.com as well. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know. And I hope I'll have the next stop posted shortly. If somebody would like to listen to it now, well, I'll give it. You're welcome to. But if not, I'll be ending this. This is starting a new Zoom and recording it by myself.
Okay, thank you.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbos.
Thank you. Good Shabbos.
Shabbos. Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbos, everybody.
Where?